So, this movie is about surviving a terrible day, but let me explain why it might actually be about the danger of having one extremely irresponsible friend. So, imagine this: you wake up in the morning already stressed, rent is due, your job is on the line, your life isn't falling apart exactly, but it's definitely being held together with some tape and good intentions. All you have to do is make it through the day, just one day. One simple, normal day. And somehow, because of one person's terrible decisions, that day turns into a full blown survival mission. That's basically the chaotic engine behind One of Them Days, starring Keke Palmer and SZA. On the surface, the movie is a classic bad day comedy. Two friends, one disaster after another, and a race against time to fix a problem before everything collapses. But underneath all the jokes and chaos, there is actually a very relatable theme hiding in plain sight. Because this isn't just a story about surviving a bad day. It's about surviving the consequences of someone else's responsibility. The movie follows Drew and Alyssa, two friends trying to hold their lives together in a world that already feels expensive, stressful, and slightly unfair. Drew is the one trying to move forward. She's focused and she's trying to keep her job, pay her bills, and build something resembling stability. Alyssa is not that. Alyssa is the type of friend who completely lives in the moment, the kind of person who makes decisions based on vibes, impulse, and the dangerous belief that everything will somehow work itself out. And if you've ever had a friend like that, you already know what kind of story this is. Because the irresponsible friend doesn't just make problems for themselves, no, they create problems for everybody standing nearby. And the entire plot of this movie basically kicks off because Alyssa trusted the wrong person with their rent money, which immediately creates the kind of panic that feels very real to anyone who's ever had to pay bills in the real world. Now, suddenly, the entire day becomes a race. They need money fast. And from that point on, the movie turns into a chain reaction of increasingly ridiculous situations as the two of them scramble through the city trying to fix a problem that never should have existed in the first place. But what makes the movie work is the dynamic between these two characters. Because Drew isn't just dealing with bad luck. She's dealing with a friend whose decisions keep making everything worse. And that dynamic is something a lot of people quietly recognize in their own lives. We all know someone like Alyssa, the friend who means well but lives chaos everywhere they go. The friend who always has a new idea, a new scheme, a new plan to fix everything. But somehow their plans always create more problems than they solve. And what this movie captures really well is the emotional exhaustion of being the responsible one in the friendship. Drew is constantly trying to manage the situation. She's the one thinking ahead, calculating the risks, and worrying about the consequences. Meanwhile, Alyssa is reacting to the moment. She's improvising, she's hoping things work out, and hope is not a financial strategy. Yeah. So the movie slowly turns into this hilarious but slightly painful portrait of what it feels like to carry the responsibility of two people when only one of them is actually taking life seriously. Because being friends with someone irresponsible creates a strange emotional trap. You care about them, you want them to win, you believe that they have good intentions, but at the same time, their choices keep dragging you into situations you never asked for, and that tension fuels almost every moment of the story. Every time Drew thinks things might finally stabilize, another decision, another shortcut, another quick fix send the day spiraling again. It's chaos layered on top of chaos, and that's where the movie becomes more relatable than it first appeared. Because most people have experienced some version of this dynamic, not necessarily chasing rent money across the city, but dealing with the ripple effects of someone's lack of responsibility. The friend who always forgets important things, the friend who doesn't think about consequences, the friend who apologizes sincerely every time and then does the same exact thing again 2 weeks later. And eventually, you start realizing something uncomfortable. Some people aren't unlucky, they are just consistently irresponsible. And their lifestyle quietly becomes everyone else's problem. But what keeps the movie from becoming cynical is the chemistry between the two leads. Even when Alyssa is making terrible decisions, there's still warmth in the friendship. You can tell these two genuinely care about each other, and that's important because real friendships are messy like that. Sometimes the people who stress you out the most or the people you love with the hardest. Sometimes loyalty keeps you standing beside someone long after logic tells you to step away. And the movie never forgets that. It understands that friendships, especially long ones, are rarely perfectly balanced. There's often one person who's a little more responsible, one person who's little more chaotic, one person holding things together while the other person accidentally lights the room on fire. And yet somehow the friendship still works most of the time. But one of them days pushes that dynamic to the extreme because this isn't just a slightly inconvenient afternoon. This is the kind of day where everything that can go wrong does go wrong. Money problems, time pressure, embarrassing situations, random encounters that somehow make things worse than better. It's like the universe decided to test how much stress one friendship can survive in a single day. And that's what makes the movie funny. Not just the jokes, but the escalating absurdity of the situation. Each new obstacle feels like the universe is asking Drew the same question over and over again. How loyal are you, really? How much chaos are you willing to tolerate for the people you care about? At what point does friendship turn into damage control? And by the end of the movie, the day has become something bigger than just a scramble for rent money. It became a test for patience, loyalty, and personal boundaries. Because sometimes the hardest part of friendship isn't showing up for someone during hard times, it's deciding how much responsibility for their life you are willing to carry. Because everyone has one of them days. But if those days keep happening over and over again, eventually you have to ask whether the problem is bad luck or the people you keep trusting. And that is what makes one of them days more than just a chaotic comedy. It's a story about friendship under pressure, about loyalty in the middle of frustration, and about the exhausting reality of loving someone who keeps making life harder than it needs to be. Because sometimes the biggest obstacle in your day isn't the world, it's the friend standing right next to you saying, "Relax, I've got a plan."